Hello, my dear gardeners. What do we do on the day when we are ready to move our potted roses into the garage? Well, first we force our roses into dormancy. I kind of don't like that phrase. I like we encourage our roses to go dormant and stay dormant. Then we clean our roses, we address the issue with the soil, we spray, which is optional but highly recommended. We move our roses into the garage, we water them if needed, and then we address the issue with light, humidity, and pots sitting on the ground. Olga, Carmody with you here today, master gardener from Connecticut. Let's take care of those roses. So step number one, we force our roses into dormancy. And that phrase applies to people who garden in warmer areas where they have to kind of persuade rose to be dormant and stay dormant. But here we kind of gently encourage rose by taking off all the stems and doing the trimming on the rose which is growing in the pot. So generally roses which are growing in our gardens, we don't trim them as severely as those roses which are growing in pots and which are going into the garage or in some storage area you have. We trim all the lawn canes, we defoliate the rose, we take all the healthy and unhealthy leaves, we clean all the debris from the pot, and the next step would be to make sure that the soil level stays the same as spring level of the soil in that pot. Well, soil in pot has a tendency to leach out, so we want to refill it to the level which it was at the beginning of the growing season. And then we want to spray that rose before it goes into the garage. It's optional, and the perfect spray mix for it would be horticultural oil. My favorite product, I like to use that oil in the garden in the winter. Because what happens is horticultural oil takes care after all the scales, mites, eggs of aphids, which are cozily tucked into crevices on your rose or in the soil, ready to wake up in the cozy little nooks of the garage and maybe create an infestation or disease might develop. So we want to be ahead of that. And we will use horticultural oil. I like to use the summer mix. It's a little bit lighter. This way you make sure that those stems are not damaged by winter mix of horticultural oil, which is a little bit stronger. You spray not only the stems, you spray all the topsoil in the pot, because a lot of pathogen and aphid eggs and all sorts of scales, they are on the surface of the soil hiding in micro debris, right? So you do a good deed, you spray your soil, you spray your rose, and your rose is ready to go into the garage. Next step would be to water it or to address the issue with watering. Only after you move your rose into the garage, not before, because roses are heavy, they grow in heavy pots, and I am making that mistake all the time. I like watering plants, so I just go in and water my rose so well, feeling that water coming through my system too, you know. True gardeners feel their plants in a way. And then I'm like, oopsie, I have to move this pot. So first you move the pot, and then you water your rose. And what do we do with watering? So the winter, we have to make sure that roses do not dry up. We don't forget about roses. We keep watch, we check on them, you know. How is the soil? The soil shouldn't dry up. Probably we should water them half the amount we water them in the summer. So it shouldn't be waterlogged conditions in that pot, but at the same time, soil shouldn't dry up. So I probably would water my roses once a week. With a good maybe half a liter of water, just to make sure that soil stays hydrated and my rose is not going to dry up. And then I will make sure that my garage is with the light just like the garage is, you know, the light conditions. There's one window in the garage, the light is indirect, not very strong. When we have strong direct light in the garage shining on our rose, maybe it's not an issue at the beginning of the season, of the winter, when light of the sun is not warm and strong. But here comes February, March, and those sun rays are becoming stronger, more direct. They have a little bit more heat with them. And those conditions, strong sun, can wake up the rose. We don't want rose to wake up too early, because we have this rose starting to grow in the middle of March in the garage. It's still cold outside. That rose will have a hard time getting used to the conditions outside. You wouldn't be able to get it acclimated successfully. So we want rose to go into dormancy, stay the whole winter in dim garage. We should check on it every week, make sure we water it every week, make sure that humid conditions are not there. I have the garage which is not heated, a big thing, not heated garage, right? It is adjacent to the house, and the temperature in the garage is ideal for storing plants, including roses. It never goes really cold into freezing conditions, so it stays, the ideal temperature in the garage should be high 20s, 30 up to lower 40s, Fahrenheit, of course. Those are good conditions. Roses are quiet, they are dormant, strong light is not there, water is present in the soil, and our roses are sleeping and just waiting for us to bring them outside into beautiful spring weather, and they are ready to start blooming again. Two more things I wanted to address before we close this video. Which roses have to be moved into the garage, and when is this day when we have to move our roses? Well, roses in pots do get cold faster, do get warm quicker, because they are outside of the soil, right? So roses which can overwinter outside should be 2 zones colder than your zone, and I garden in zone 7A. So if I want to overwinter my rose in the pot outside, that rose should be hardy to zone 5. Still, I would put that rose into somewhat sheltered location, because the enemy of roses in pots are strong desiccating winds, ice, and fluctuating temperatures. Extremely cold, extremely warm, very fast, and pot is there on the exposed location. It gets cold very fast, gets warm very quickly, and rose cannot deal with that unless it is cold hardy in those conditions. I have a rose which I don't know the name of that rose, so that rose is going into the garage. But if you have roses which are hardy only one zone harder than yours, colder than yours, and then roses which are hardy only to your zone, then you, by all means, you have to move them into sheltered condition. And now what about this day? When is it supposed to happen? We wait in our area. This probably will be at the beginning of December. We're going to wait for the first good, strong, cold night with temperatures in the mid-20s. Roses will understand that this is time for severe weather, for cold weather. It's time to go to sleep, and they are not going to think anything when we bring them into the garage, which is going to be slightly warmer. But roses will be strongly in dormant stage, and they're not going to start growing. So we are waiting for that first strong frost. Before that, we don't do anything to our rose. We don't trim those long canes. Our roses are famous now, especially when they're growing in somewhat shady conditions. They're famous for shooting long stems, and beginner gardener has a temptation to cut those stems off. Please hold on to your temptation. Don't do it. Wait for that first frost, and then you do nice trimming, cleaning, spraying, watering, bringing that rose into the garage, and then you are just waiting for spring to come. I'm just dreaming about all the books I'm going to read through the winter. All right, my gardeners, we will see you next time, and happy gardening.